Speaking of fascinating, I am deeply fascinated by this statement by Rabbi Hanin, who said, wine was created only in order to give comfort to mourners and to reward the wicked. Okay, we could just stop there. That is deeply, deeply, deeply fascinating because on the one hand, first of all, who said wine was needed to be created for any purpose at all? That's the first question I have. But the second is, wait, you're saying that there's a very utilitarian purpose for wine to be created and these particular people, but what about everybody else? And certainly we just saw these couple other texts that, there's certain wisdom and certain, even godlike status that we can achieve as far as our actions and our activities. But this is really interesting. To comfort mourners and to repay, sort of recompense or reward the wicked, which is so fascinating, as it says. So, and then it goes on, give beer to him that is ready to perish and wine to the bitter of soul. Let them forget his poverty and remember his misery no more, from Proverbs chapter 31. This is, first of all, the Proverbs verse is deeply fascinating in and of itself. It's I don't know, very similar to each other. And the first, it starts off by saying, give beer to this person who's lost, as it were, and give wine to one who's bittered of soul. I find deeply fascinating about that phrase is that beer, which is bitter, do you give it to the bittered of soul? No, you don't give a bitter thing to someone who's bittered. You actually give wine to someone who's embittered because wine can, make them happy, and then you give beer to the other person. Really fascinating. But going back to the rabbinic text, not going away from the biblical text, is that here also what's really fascinating is Rabbi Hanin doesn't even mention the beer aspect. He only talks about the wine. He's just so weno-centric. He doesn't even mention the beer. And for comforting mourners. So there are some, as it turns out, Tannaitic texts, some early rabbinic texts that talk about drinking in the mourning house, and that there being certain drinking customs that went along. I'll just give you a little tease, which is that in Ketubot, it talks about 10 different cups of wine being set aside for drinking in the mourning house. And so they definitely had a culture at the time that in the drinking house, the mourning houses, that they would consume wine. So here, to comfort mourners, so the mourners would drink wine, and that was just part of the culture, as well as to repay the wicked. Clearly wicked, I don't think we have any concern or worry that they indeed do drink, but also that is their reward. They have nothing else coming in the subsequent world.